Hello Mayhem Makers, I am Mindy with Quilting Mayhem and welcome to Summer Sampler Week 4. We're working on the one I've called Fractured. So it's kind of fun, simple, easy, half square triangles and flying geese. So if you have them, grab your Tucker trimmer and your wing clipper. I'll show you how to use both of those to make sure that your blocks are nice and the right size so that it comes all together and measures out just the way you want. So we'll get started with half square triangles. I've shown them before, but if you're just jumping in for the first time, we're just going to start right out with the basics. You'll take two of your squares of the same size, put them right sides together, and then make sure you're drawing a diagonal line, and you're going to sew 1/4 inch from either side, right? So it'll look like that. All right, and then you're just simply come over here, nice and quick, cutting apart on the line. All right, and then you'll press them. So, and I'm just using good old friction pen, heat erase. I don't have to worry about it leaving any marks because it's on the wrong side of the fabric. All right, so you're going to cut those guys apart, and then you'll have 2 half square triangles for every set. All right, easy peasy. Then we'll trim it up. So we're going to come back over here, move some of our mess out of the way, and the good old Tucker trimmer. I really love this guy because what's nice is, except trying to do this on a video kind of backwards, you want to make sure your diagonal line is lined up with that diagonal seam, and hopefully you have just a little bit around the edges. Hopefully you can kind of see here, there's just little bits, and we're just going to trim that up. All right, so we'll come over here. And remember, you pick up the pattern in the store, it will have all the measurements you need in it. You're just going to trim off those little bits. And then you'll have nice straight lines to line up with. And trim off the other side. Alright. So, nice, pretty half square triangle. Now for this pattern, we are making them in different color combinations. So make sure you pay attention to which fabrics are getting paired up with which, because you are going to be mixing up some of the darker fabrics together and then some of the medium and lighter fabrics, and your fabric colors may not match mine. So make sure you're referring to the instructions in the diagram as to where you want to put all your pieces. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Otherwise, half square triangles, you could make them for days. Easy peasy. The other piece that you're making is just flying geese, right? So you start out with whatever your main goose body is, where this one actually is what I would call the background. It's a lighter fabric. And then you'll lay your first square, have that diagonal line on there. You're going to draw it on and then stitch it. And I've kind of skipped ahead. So stitch right on the line for these. So different from the half square triangle, we're not 1/4 inch away. We are going to be right on that line. You're going to stitch, making sure you're going from the middle to that outer corner. Then you will just trim it off. And if you want to use the no waste method, make sure you refer to the instructions with the ruler for fabric cutting before you even start, because it will be different fabric. And then remember that the bigger square will be whatever the background is, and then your smaller squares will be this darker fabric. So you can do the no waste method with this because it makes one set makes the 4 that you need. All right. Otherwise, we do this lovely waste method. I like it. It makes it nice and accurate. So that's what happens when it's pressed. And then what will happen is you will take, oh, I didn't get that step done. Haha. I try to get ahead and somehow it doesn't always work. All right, so then you lay this square on. All right, and you're gonna just sew on that line, and then you will trim and press, and it gets you just a flying geese. All right, so we will make sure that this flying geese measures the way it should. And this is where I bring that wing clipper ruler back in. Let's see if we can do this again, kind of upside down and backwards for you guys. So what I like is it has these cross hatches. So you want to make sure that point of the goose nests up in there, and then you'll be trimming off any excess, and then when you flip the square around or the rectangle around, you'll be able to measure it up again in the lower crosshairs of this flying geese. You'll be able to measure and line up down in there. All right, so we'll take it here. But I always start with lining up that 1/4 inch on the top, because to me that's the most important, because I don't want to lose the tip of that. All right, so, and there's really, I'm actually pretty spot on. I don't have any excess necessarily to trim, except for that little thread. So that's good. That's what we want. We want it to measure what it should measure. If they're coming out too small, then try doing just a little less of a seam allowance, what they call a scant seam allowance. Just move your fabric over a little more or adjust your needle more, depending how you have your machine set up, so that you do get them spot on. If they're a little too big, great. Trim it down. You're happy. Move on, right? So I'm going to get all the pieces and parts put together, and then I'll be right back with it laid out for you and show you how to put it together. So be right back. All right, so as you'll be able to see, we have all our pieces ready to go. So for this block, I'm not ready to just sew into rows yet. I actually want to combine this center kind of 4 patch of half square triangles first. So I'm just going to fold right sides together, take them to the machine, do a 1/4 inch seam, and then press and merge them together into one big 4 patch before doing the rest. So I'll do that and be right back. All right, so we have that unit made. Now remember, when you're putting these pieces together, you want to pin where those center joins meet before you do this final seam. That way you get it nice and matching in the middle, and make sure you're pinning at the beginning and the end if you're new, or just making sure they match so you get these nice meetups on every corner that have that 1/4 inch. Okay, this one's not as nice, but I've got my 1/4 inch, so it'll all come out in the end. All right, so that's going to go in the middle, and now we can do our rows across, and then we'll match up our rows. So for this, I'm going to do, this to this to this. This will be row 1. I'll do the flying geese to either side of this. This will be row 2. And then once again, these corner half square triangles to the flying geese for row 3. So I'll put them together and let you see what they look like. All right, so we have rows 1, 2, and 3. We're at the final part. All right, so take row 1, flip it on top of row 2, and make sure you pin where these 2 seams meet up, because you want to make sure they match up. And you're just going to take it to the machine, sew your 1/4 inch seam. And because I like to do as much sewing as possible before pressing, I'm actually going to line up row 3 to the bottom, and I'll end up sewing both seams before I press, and then I'll be done. So just a little more efficient that way if you're comfortable with it. If you're new to quilting and that just doesn't make you happy, don't. Just do one seam at a time. Do the first one, press it, and then add on the other one, and press it and be done. But I'm going to go do this. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, here we go. There's our fractured block. Isn't that pretty? I love it. And once again, another block that even if all you did was that block and turn it into a full quilt, I think it would be gorgeous. So hope you enjoyed it. If you have any problems, any questions, please reach out to us. info@quiltingmayhem.com. Call us at the store. Come see us at the store. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, all those kinds of things. Feel free to reach out to us for help. Make sure you're posting as you go, and tag us. Tag us at Quilting Mayhem. Embrace the Mayhem, Mayhem Maker, all those kinds of things. The QM Summer Sampler. We want to see what you're doing. So make sure you let us know, tag us in your photos, because that's the fun part of this, is just seeing everybody's different blocks, all their different fabrics and things. So hope you're enjoying it, and until next week, keep on stitching.